Hey everyone, I just finished up with this technique and I wanted to try to do a video of I don't like this, I want to change it all up. How do I go about doing this with alcohol ink? Let me get set up. Howdy Howdy, this is Clara Lawrence, and I did this in alcohol ink with very faint colors, and I even used a little bit of rainbow. There's a little bit of shimmer there. And I thought I would show an example of like, well, I don't like it, what do I do? And I kind of want to change a lot of this up. And how do I go about this? So I picked out some bolder colors, and I got a lot more of these guys and a lot more cups. So let's get set up. Okay, so I want to get this guy going earlier in the morning since this technique, it works best when you set it up and you just let it sit and dry on its own. I have tried to speed it up before with dryers and such, but if you get areas like in here where you have cups and it traps in the moisture and the evaporation takes a lot longer, dryers don't seem to work that well. It'll get everything on the outside of it, but just not on the inside, and you lose the ability of doing your inner rings and such. So that's why I want to get this set up early in the morning. So to approach this is actually fairly similar to how I approach it in the beginning anyway. We usually just douse the crud out of this with a bunch of alcohol. And again, I'm in a well-ventilated area, so the alcohol has a chance to disperse well. So what I'm doing here is I'm just tilting just to cover up my board. And again, I'm not wearing gloves. In this case, I think I do want to wear gloves because I want to use my fingers. And the reason why I use my fingers is just to get it up to edges for now. Enough alcohol in there that this stuff has a chance to move around. And also me running my fingers over this is reactivating some of the inks that are already on here. And I'm not worried about giving it a clean slate. I'm just gonna work with what I got. So what I'm gonna do here is just gently go over some of these areas that are really saturated and have rings in them and such like that, and just kind of reactivate a bit. Now this is a pre-gessoed board, so it does have a tendency to stain. If you do not want that, try a slicker surface, such as like some of the Yupo papers, and they have what is this, a ceramic paper that works out better, and you can get a cleaner impression. I'm not that worried about it, and I have a tendency to, I could feel the alcohol ink ridges here, and that's why I'm rubbing it a little bit more. So I have a tendency to just kind of go with the flow as far as what I've got and work with it. So I am about to throw a bunch of color on here because I'm going to saturate the crud out of this. I'm opening up all my things. I'm also using two new colors, or at least new colors to me. These are Malibu, and this is supposedly a neon color. I'll put a lot of it over there. And then a fair amount. Let's get an area here that doesn't have too much green. Blue might be good. All right. I wasn't kidding about a lot of color. All right. And this is a vineyard, which is a nice purple. But it is going to be a deep purple. So I got to be careful of that. I'm going to put, yeah, you're going to freak out a little bit. a little bit of brown, and I brought in a Fiesta, which is a really nice rich pink. Okay, and I made a nice mess. Let's do something with this. Actually, I'm gonna put these just way to the side. Also with this technique, get your stuff together ahead of time that you either want to make impressions of or hold down the items. And you'll see what I'm talking about really quickly. Let's see if I've got enough ink. And all I'm doing is moving this around. If you're not getting a lot of flow, just add a little bit more alcohol. I'm not getting a lot of flow over here. What we're trying to do is get nice blends going on. Doesn't have to blend it out completely, but I am going to add more color. I'm going to add a little brown over here, and that'll help out. This neon is probably on the transparent side. Yeah, my voice is a little off this morning, but that is not uncommon for me. I get that rough kind of voice, always have. I don't smoke. I don't know why it is. It's just something that happens. Now, this is getting a little dark. Don't freak out because I'm not. I'm not freaked out. I'm gonna add a little bit of purple over here. See if I can get it to just kind of blend in with it. There we go. It's like you almost get cells and then they settle. Okay, so we are going to move quickly, and I'm just going to start layering down some stuff. This is how you get alcohol ink all over your items, just by picking them up and touching the surface. And that's all right. So I'm just gonna leave a little trickle of hearts for now. And then drop some of these little bits. See how it's already reacting and kind of pushing away? I would encourage you to have a variety of sizes, because things get more interesting when there's a variety instead of everything being the same. I have a huge stash of these things, so if I need more, I can grab it. You see how really, really fluid this is? This is already starting to lose some of the fluidity. I don't know if that's a word, but it works for now. So I gotta hustle a little bit. That means that alcohol ink is starting to evaporate. Or the alcohol is starting to evaporate. I just stuck my finger in there. See, it's kind of pulling off on the sides there. All right, I think we are good on those. Now I'm gonna lay down cups. Now watch as I lay down the cup. Okay, now it's not gonna do it because I said so. Okay, whoops. So I'm just putting some weight on top. Let's see. Might have that going off canvas. But in areas where there's a lot of alcohol, sometimes they can glide on the surface. So I encourage you on bigger things, even glass cups can do this, where they will just glide off. And also having it weighted down to get a nice complete circle down below. Let's see, got some bigger ones. So I'm going to do a couple of cups here. Whoop, see, there's that. Okay, I'm going to risk it. Nope, it's not going to work there. Okay. It is just moving all over the place. There. Have a bigger one there. Since I have all these pastes for resin, I just figured I'd use it to my advantage and use them as weights. I know my son's gonna walk in here while I'm doing this going, "Ma, what are you doing?" By the way, guys, if you don't have a turntable for alcohol ink, you don't know what you're missing. Let's see. I'm going to do one without something inside it. Now the ones that are hanging over the edge will probably evaporate the most because oxygen will have a way of getting in, or the vapors coming out of the cup, so that way it can evaporate rather well. So I'm trying to think if I want to do any more. I'm going to leave it like this. Okay, I'm going to bring you in for a close-up so you can see my mess that is on my table. Okay, so I want to show you this. You see how the rings are already developing around the cups and the little glass beads? It's already starting to do its thing. So, and as this dries off, it'll leave nice little lines. That one might be tricky to get off. You'll get a little, snick kind of sound when you pull it off. But right there, where it's hanging over the edge, that inside will probably evaporate a lot faster than this one will. Well, actually, no, I take it back because that one's got a lip on. Then, let's say this one will. All right. So this area here, see how it's not as shiny on the surface? So it's already starting to evaporate pretty quickly. But that area inside will take some time. So this is definitely a project where you set it up and you leave it for the day. So that's what we're going to do. All right, let's check this out and see if it is ready to remove. I'm sure these guys are ready to remove, meaning on the canvas. Let's see how wet it is underneath. Hopefully it's not too bad. A little bit of wet alcohol ink underneath. All right, I need to try this. These are always the iffy ones. And it seems like it's good. All right. I think what I'm gonna do, it's been about, I guess about 5 hours. So I'm gonna remove the cups and then leave the guys that were inside the cups for a little bit, because that one that I took over there was still a little wet underneath and it was on the outside. So I'm sure these guys are still wet underneath. And that way the air can get in there on the sides and the edges and help evaporate the alcohol. So yeah, that was still juicy, it moved. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put that back on. I wanted to also show what happens if you do take them off too soon and it's still wet. Put it right back on. So I'm gonna put that guy back on there. That's the sound we're looking for. That's kind of breaking the alcohol ink seal.
when it's dry. It's like I want to pull it off, but yet not hurt the board. Okay. I'm still getting a little bit of sparkle from before, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So rainbow is one of those things that when you use it and the alcohol evaporates, when you add alcohol back to it, it doesn't reactivate, so it'll stay put. And I expected that to happen on that part. Hey, Mikey. So, yeah, as recording. All right, let me just go ahead and remove these. Nope, that's going back on because it's still wet. You can feel it. Let's see. That had a good seal. What's interesting is the ones that have exposed air didn't draw the color to the edges like the ones that were not exposed to air. So I notice these colors are a lot darker. I didn't know it would do that, so that was new to me. Is you mesmerized, Mikey?
Maybe.
Maybe a little? Alright. That still feels juicy, so I want to lay that down, and I'm going to lay the other hearts too. It's almost like you can't help yourself but pick them up. Alright, so I think this thing needs to dry a little longer. Okay, it's been another 4 hours on this guy. Let's go ahead and remove this. I'm doing this one-handed, so. Still feels like it's a little wet. Let's see. Yeah, you see how that just pulled out? So what I'm gonna do is lay it down on that spot, darn it. So I could probably open this up and let that dry up a little faster. It's still very juicy crud. Usually by this time I'm good. All right, see, that's almost hard to get off, and that's kind of what you want, is that little pop. So these guys are better dry now. Ooh. My husband's gonna come out and say, "What are you doing out there?" All right. So I took 2 cups off, right? Yeah. I'm gonna leave that be. All right, that one did look, pulled a little gesso off. So what I'll probably do is touch that very briefly with like a little bit of alcohol, and that will reactivate the colors right next to it, and we'll never know. Oh my gosh. Okay.
go. Yeah, so we're coming along pretty well. Let's see if I can focus. Actually, I'm gonna zoom in. So got a lot of interesting lines going on. Still see a little sparkle there. How many lines there are right in there. And that's just from it evaporating. That's cool. All right. I guess we wait a little bit more. So I had an idea. Since we have to wait a little longer anyway, I thought I'd do a little playing with the surrounding areas. And let's see. I'm gonna put a couple of these guys down and you'll understand in just a minute. Let's see. Just for grants. And then what I've got here is I've got a little cup with just some isopropyl alcohol in it. It said 91%, and I'm gonna touch these areas real quick and do a little bit of damage work. And you'll never see them. No, well, it's just dust. Okay, let me see if there's anything under there. Nope. There is a couple of bits over here. And I'm just reactivating the ink that's around it. I've got a little bit of ink of my own on the brush that I'm picking up. But there's so much ink on the canvas, it's really not too much of a problem. So what I did is a tiny, tiny drop of alcohol on it, move to the next spot, and then it would dissolve some of the area around it. And then went back to it and kind of blended it in. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, I've got the brush in the alcohol, I almost said water, and I'm just gonna flick it down and create some little dots. So we're gonna have spots on spots, basically. Some are going to be larger and some are going to be smaller. And then I'm also going to put a couple of the hearts back down. So that way, if any of these land where a heart is, maybe it'll make a shadow or something. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Maybe it won't do anything. But it's definitely going to give us some like little rings. I just keep tapping until all the alcohol is gone. And that way it gives me a variety of different sizes. Like the first time you start tapping, you have the most alcohol on your brush, you're going to get the bigger droplets. But
if you keep tapping and you're thinking you're out of alcohol, you're probably going to get those itty bitty teeny tiny dots. Whoa, and there goes my alcohol because I just knocked it over. Okay. Well, the good news is it'll evaporate. Bad news is I knocked it over. It's all over my table. Okay, paper towel to the rescue. And I always use my finger to tap the brush onto. And that just works the best for me. I'm sure other people have different ways of doing it. And what the cool thing is that whenever the alcohol hits this and starts making the ink spread a little bit, once that's evaporated and another drop will hit it, it'll make another spread so that you could have a circle and then another little circle within that and get complex shapes. Let me get some big drops over here, kind of break up this area. You can also make up a solution of color and drop that as well. Let's see, I'm gonna square this up. Might make it easier to see. I don't want to seem to get one drop. There we go. It's a very simple technique, but it plays with texture. And texture is a very good thing, especially when you're working with colors that are similar, like reds, red violets, pinks, and purples. They're very similar shades. So sometimes the texture is the thing that makes it a lot more interesting. Let's see. If you notice this area right here has a lot of the rainbow in it, and so it hasn't changed a whole lot. This area might. Let's see if we're gonna put a drop there and you can see what I mean. So that area in there might do it, a little change, but the rainbow itself, that sheen won't move. I'm gonna selectively put some drops in certain spots. Sometimes it takes a big drop to make a lot of ink move too. Because it might be like rather thick in that area. Like right in there, it's really dense. There's a lot of ink in there. It's not a thin coat, in other words. I was wondering if it would run down. I'm gonna go ahead and put a few more drops on there until it does. Okay, maybe it'll help. I'm wondering if it'll run along the edges. And like sometimes water will kind of hit a seam and go around. Maybe I need a whole lot. I don't know. We'll have to see. You see how I'm just shaking it here, I'm getting a lot bigger drops. But if I start doing this, I'll get the really teeny tiny drops. Believe it or not, I'm still getting them. All right, I think I'm good for now. All right, be dry before tomorrow. Okay.
All right, it's been another 12 hours. This thing surely should be dry by now. Let's see. Oh, I've got it really thick in here. This is interesting. I haven't seen this pattern before. Yeah, it's still liquidy. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to be impatient and just let that dry like it is. So apparently it made a really good suction and didn't allow any evaporation. And keep in mind, this little technique can take a while. And I was just putting that over after I was doing all the little dot bits to see if you would get any impression of a circle, and it doesn't look like it. Okay. I'm gonna take a little alcohol and see if I can reactivate that and soften that out. Nope, no voids. Let's see. Well, hello there, Mikey. Okay, I had to say good morning to my boy. Alrighty. So other than some minor details, I'm pretty much gonna leave this as is. So let me bring you in for a close-up. Zoom in. And there's not much hint of the previous painting I did before, except for the little bits of rainbow, which kind of blend in with what we're doing right now. All right, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Definitely hit the bell to get notified next time I put a video out. And check my description area for links of the different products I use, but definitely the link for the Etsy page that has a lot of the art available on it now. There we go.